Your grandfather dies, and in his will, he leaves you a $15 million mansion. For about a week, you're the luckiest person you know. Then, the first property tax bill arrives. Then the roof inspector calls. Then your siblings stop speaking to you. Right now, in America, the largest generational wealth transfer in human history is happening. Over the next 20 years, an estimated $84 trillion will pass from one generation to the next. $6 trillion of that moved hands in 2025 alone. And a huge amount of that inheritance isn't cash, it's houses, estates, mansions, physical property that somebody now has to actually own. Here's what almost nobody warns you about. Inheriting a mansion is one of the fastest ways to accidentally destroy your own finances. And thousands of families are learning that the hard way, right now, in real time. So today we're breaking down what actually happens when a massive house lands in your lap for free. Spoiler, free might be the most expensive word in this entire story. Let's start with the number that catches almost every new heir off guard. Estate taxes. Depending on the size of the estate and where you live, inheriting a high-value property can trigger a tax bill in the hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. And here's the part that genuinely shocks people. This bill often comes due within 9 months of the death. Not 9 years, 9 months. You've just lost someone you love, you're grieving, and somewhere in the mail, a tax bill is arriving that assumes you have liquid cash sitting around equal to a meaningful percentage of a property you never asked to own. Most heirs don't have that kind of cash sitting in a checking account, which means the very first decision many new mansion owners have to make, often within months of a funeral, is whether to sell the house immediately just to pay the tax bill on inheriting it. Think about that. You inherit a $15 million house, and your first real option might be selling it before you've even changed the address on your driver's license. Now, let's say you don't sell right away. You decide to keep it. Here's where the second wave hits. Older estate properties, the kind people typically inherit rather than buy new, often come with decades of deferred maintenance. Roofing systems installed before you were born. Plumbing and electrical wiring that predates modern safety codes. HVAC systems that haven't been touched in 20 years. A full restoration or modernization of a large historic estate can run into the millions of dollars. Not thousands, millions. And here's the trap. You can't just ignore it. A neglected historic mansion doesn't sit still and hold its value. It deteriorates. Roof leaks become structural damage. Structural damage becomes a property that's actually losing value every single year you don't address it. So now you're facing a choice. Spend money you may not have to maintain a house you didn't buy, or watch an asset worth millions slowly become worth less every year you can't afford to fix it. Here's the part of this story that has nothing to do with money at all, and somehow becomes the most expensive part of the whole thing. Multiple heirs. Rarely does one person inherit a mansion alone. Usually it's split between siblings, cousins, sometimes an entire extended family, all holding a percentage of ownership in the same physical house. And here's the problem. One sibling wants to sell immediately and split the cash. Another wants to keep the family home forever for sentimental reasons. A third wants to convert it into a rental property. All three are legally entitled to a say, and none of them can force the others to agree. This is called partition litigation, and it is one of the most common and most expensive outcomes of inherited property disputes. Families end up in court, sometimes for years, fighting over a house that's costing everyone money the entire time the dispute drags on. Legal fees alone in a contested estate dispute can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Money that comes directly out of the eventual sale or inheritance, shrinking what everyone actually walks away with. The mansion was supposed to bring the family together. Very often, it's the thing that tears it apart. While all of this is being sorted out, the taxes, the maintenance decisions, the family disputes, something else is quietly happening. The house often sits empty. Vacant mansions are a genuine liability, not just a missed opportunity. Insurance costs on vacant, high-value properties are typically significantly higher than occupied ones because insurers know empty properties are more vulnerable to fire, vandalism, water damage going unnoticed, and squatting. Meanwhile, property taxes, security costs, and basic upkeep continue whether anyone is living there or not. Some inherited estates sit vacant for years while probate is settled, while family disputes work through the courts, or while heirs simply can't agree on what to do next. Every single one of those years, the carrying costs continue. The house generates zero income and consumes real money constantly. Okay, so knowing all of this, the tax bomb, the maintenance nightmare, the family disputes, the vacancy drain, what do the families who handle this well actually do differently? First, they get a professional valuation and tax assessment immediately, before making any emotional decisions. Understanding the real numbers early prevents the panic sell or panic keep decisions that destroy value later. Second, many families use a structure called a trust or an LLC to hold the property jointly, with clear, pre-agreed rules for decision-making, rather than leaving major decisions to informal family consensus that can collapse under pressure. Third, and this is the one that surprises people, a lot of financially smart heirs sell quickly, take the cash, and reinvest it, rather than holding on to an emotionally significant but financially draining property out of sentiment. That sounds cold, but the families who successfully preserve generational wealth often understand something the ones who lose it don't. The house was never actually the wealth. The equity locked inside it was. And equity sitting in a rapidly deteriorating, tax-heavy, dispute-prone mansion isn't doing anyone any good just sitting there. Not every family sells, and for the ones who don't, there's often a third path beyond keep it as is or sell immediately: conversion. Some inherited estates get turned into wedding venues, boutique hotels, or event spaces, generating genuine income from the exact property that was previously just a cost center. Others get subdivided, with the land sold separately from a smaller, more manageable portion of the original structure. There are documented cases of inherited estates that were financial disasters as private residences, becoming genuinely profitable businesses once the family stopped trying to simply live in them and started treating them as the commercial asset they actually could be. It requires capital most families don't have immediately available, but for those who can access it, it's often the difference between an inheritance that slowly bleeds money for a decade and one that becomes a genuine source of ongoing income. So the next time you hear someone say, "Must be nice, they inherited a mansion," understand what you're actually picturing: a tax bill due in 9 months. Decades of deferred maintenance waiting to surface, siblings who may never agree on what to do with it, and a property that can quietly drain money every single day, whether anyone's living in it or not. The $84 trillion wealth transfer happening right now isn't just moving money, it's moving problems, expensive, complicated, emotionally loaded problems, from one generation directly onto the next. Understanding that difference, before it's your name on the deed, is worth more than the house itself. If this changed how you think about free inheritance, hit subscribe. We break down the real economics behind the things everyone assumes are simple wins every single week. What should we look at next? Drop it in the comments. See you in the next one.